So you're here today because you are no longer getting contact forms from your website. Hi, my name is Zach here at Yaz, and let's talk about SMTP. Some quick context to get started with. So email providers like Google, who goes by G Suite for the email providing, Microsoft, which is Office 365, and several others have been working on their spam filters for a very long time. If you remember back to when you had even like your first email, back when email started getting big, late 90s, early 2000s, many of us were inundated with spam in our inboxes about adult content, weird drugs and supplements, stuff like that. We used to have to just like wade through it and, hope that we didn't click it, our parents didn't find it. We didn't even know how it ended up in our inboxes, but either way it was there. Fast forward a little bit, and these companies who deal with emails, I don't even know if Google and Microsoft were doing this at the time. I'm sure they were at least getting started. They started to understand that the safety of our inboxes and stopping us from falling for spam and scams was part of their issue. So they started working really hard on things like spam filters, and they've done a lot of great work. I no longer have all of that really weird stuff in my inbox. I can still find some stuff similar to it in my spam, which is a step in the right direction, but the thing that I want you to know today is that there is kind of another step. There are lots of emails that don't even make it into your spam inbox. Now, when we ask ourselves, how should they be blocking spam? You'll find very quickly that there's lots of gray areas. So something like blocking emails that have a lot of attachments or blocking emails that have a lot of recipients, those are things that can be a really good sign that someone is a spammer. But your work memo is, if it's sent to 100 employees or whatever, we don't want that to get blocked because there's nothing bad about that and it's important information. And of course, if we start blocking things like emails coming from automated sources, which actually is the problem we are discussing today, your contact forms getting sent from your website are being flagged because they are coming from an automated source and not being sent directly from person to person. So this is basically the issue that we're facing. Emails are being sent from your website, usually with your contact form information, but they're not making it to your inbox because they're getting flagged as spam or automated messages, and your email provider has stopped them from showing up in your inbox, stopped them from showing up in your spam folder. I talked to an employee at Google about this problem, and she told me that some of her emails were even being blocked from people. So it's even happening to the people that are trying to fix all of these sorts of problems. So a common question that I get, who does this affect? How do you know if you have a website that's going to start getting blocked? The answer that I have from our experience here, while not very satisfying, is effectively that there's no real way that we've seen to know. Across all sorts of industries, all of the websites that we've built, even using different hosts. Some websites, when we first launch them, they need SMTP solutions right away, they're getting blocked. Some get blocked after a year or a couple of months, and some websites' forms never get blocked. And we've looked at all of these situations, and there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to it. It really does feel like it could happen to anyone at any time, which is kind of why I decided to make this video, write this blog, because this is something that I need to explain to people almost weekly. So what can you do about it? So a lot of people's first thoughts who are not experiencing this problem are that you can do things like making sure that your email is not blacklisted, going out of your way to whitelist your sending email, your sending IP. These are all things that used to work consistently, but in the last 2 years started working less and less, and now I don't think they work at all. If your website forms are being blocked for this reason, none of those old fixes work anymore. The only fix that we've seen that works consistently is SMTP, which stands for, and it's not very important to remember what this stands for. I actually have to look at my notes to read what I don't use it often. So it stands for simple mail transfer protocol. So don't try to think of the technical aspect of what it actually does. To put in the simplest terms I can put it in, SMTP logs one of your email accounts into the website and sends email from that account. So instead of your email being sent from the website's kind of external into your either G Suite, Office 365, webmail, whatever you use, the email is now coming from inside your own account, and your account is not going to block itself, right? If you right now open up an email, send it to yourself, it's going to get delivered, it's not going to get blocked. So that's kind of what SMTP has done, is again, just giving you the option to either make an email specifically for this or use an email that you would use anyway, and you'll actually find that when it gets sent through SMTP, you'll find it in that email account's sent out box. So are there any drawbacks to SMTP? The only kind of downsides of it are, I guess, one, it's kind of complicated to set up. There are instructions, and we use a plugin called WP Mail SMTP. I guess that's the second. So back to the first issue. It can take some time. When I work with clients to set it up, it usually takes us about a half hour. It's more complex than it needs to be, but I myself, as a non-developer, I mean, I work in the industry, so I'm not the best example. I was able to follow the instructions and set it up, and I can help you do so as well. But there are instructions that a non-developer should be able to follow along with. The second, I guess, drawback, it's not free for everyone. I know if you have a G Suite account, that is free to work with SMTP, but I know that Office 365, so if you have Microsoft emails, those require the paid version of SMTP. So I guess, you know, a small yearly charge is a drawback in that regard. And the last kind of drawback to SMTP is that if you ever change the password of the account that's hooked up through SMTP, you need to make sure that you update that password in your website so that it, you know, keeps its connection. If you change your password, the website's going to get disconnected. Obviously, kind of makes sense. So really, those are the only things. None of those are really a bad thing. They're just things to kind of keep in mind as we work through this. So should you set up SMTP? You should set up SMTP if you are one of two people, I guess. One, you used to receive contact forms from your website and you no longer are. This is the majority of cases. Obviously, people are less likely to fix something if it's not broken. If you've stopped receiving contact forms, get in touch with me. This is something that we should set up right away because the problem doesn't go away on its own. The second person that can set it up is anyone who would be detrimented if your website stopped sending through contact forms and it took you a few days to notice. So that's really anyone who uses their website to get leads, anyone who maybe makes sales on their websites. If you're fine not knowing that somebody tried emailing you for a few days, again, not a big deal until it does become a problem. But if you know that a few days of ignoring emails could really damage your business, this is probably something that you should get in front of as well. So that's all that I have for today for SMTP. Let me know if you have any questions at all about this. It's more complicated than I wish it was. I mean, how it works is kind of simple, but it's a weird way to explain. Part of the reason I'm making this video is because I find I have to explain it a lot and it's not easy for me to do. So if you know anything else about SMTP or these problems in general, again, we only work from our experience. In trying to do research for this, found it extremely difficult to find anything on the internet that even addressed this as a problem. When I searched, like, my website is not sending forms, I think the first few ones that came up were from like very specific software, like MailChimp. Somebody, you know, said my MailChimp account is not sending, which, you know, is a similar kind of problem, but is not the same problem. So if you know something that I don't, something that could help other people, absolutely let me know. If there's something more specific that you want me to explain to you, feel free to reach out to me. And otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye-bye. adult content, weird drugs, you know all the ones. They're like, increase your, no, I don't want to say that on the video.